Hello, it's Randy Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randy Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
This is one, if I had to name the most important, this would certainly be perhaps, in certain ways you could say my most important. You do the job like everybody in this room is capable of doing. There can be, and the generals are wonderful, and the fighting is wonderful.
The fighting is wonderful.
But if you give them the right direction, boy, does the fighting become easier. And boy, do we lose so fewer lives and win so quickly. And that's what we have to do. We have to start winning again. When I was young, and when I was, of course, I feel young. I feel like I'm 30, 35, 39. Somebody said, "Are you young?" I said, "I think I'm young." I was stopping when we were in the final month of that campaign, 4 stops, 5 stops, 7 stops, speeches in front of 25, 30,000 people, 15,000, 19,000 from stop to stop. I feel young. But when I was young, and I think we're all sort of young, when I was young, we were always winning things in this country. We'd win with trade. We'd win with wars. At a certain age, I remember hearing from one of my instructors, the United States has never lost a war. And then after that, it's like, we haven't won anything. We don't win anymore. The old expression, to the victor belong the spoils. You remember I always used to say, keep the oil. I wasn't a fan of Iraq. I didn't want to go into Iraq. But I will tell you, when we were in, we got out wrong. And I always said, in addition to that, keep the oil. Now, I said it for economic reasons. But if you think about it, Mike, if we kept the oil, you probably wouldn't have ISIS because that's where they made their money in the first place. So we should have kept the oil. But, okay. Maybe you'll have another chance.
Maybe you'll have another chance.
But the fact is, should have kept the oil. I believe that this group is going to be one of the most important groups in this country toward making us safe, toward making us winners again, toward ending all of the problems. We have so many problems that are interrelated that we don't even think of, but interrelated.
We don't even
to
think
the kind of
them.
havoc
He's talking
and
to
fear
the CIA
that this sick group of people has caused. So I can only say that I am with you 1,000%. And the reason you're my first stop is that, as you know, I have a running war with the media. They are among the most dishonest human beings on earth. What?
Don't you find this
And they
odd?
sort of made it sound like I had a feud with the intelligence community. And I just want to let you know, the reason you're number one stop, it is exactly the opposite. Exactly. And they understand that too. And I was explaining about the numbers. We did a thing yesterday, the speech. Did everybody like the speech? You had to like it. Right? So I've been given
Oh, my
reviews,
God.
But we had a massive field of people. You saw that.
Oh,
Packed.
God.
I get up this morning, I turn on one of the networks, and they show an empty field. I said, wait a minute. I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1 million, 1.5 million people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there. And they said, Donald Trump did not draw well. I said, it was almost raining. The rain should have scared him away, but God looked down and he said, we're not going to let it rain on your speech.
Oh, my
In fact,
God.
when I first started, I said, oh, no. First line, I got hit by a couple of drops. And I said, oh, this is too bad, but we'll go right through it. But the truth is that it stopped immediately. It was amazing.
What?
And then it became really sunny. Then I walked off and it poured right after I left. It poured. But, we have something that's amazing because it looked like 1.5 million people, whatever it was. But it went all the way back to the Washington Monument. And I turn on the thing, and by mistake, I get this network. And it showed an empty field. And it said we drew 250,000 people. Now, that's not bad, but it's a lie. We had 250,000 people literally around, in the little bowl that we constructed. That was 250,000 people.
Oh, my God.
The rest of the, 20-block area all the way back to the Washington Monument was packed. So we caught them, and we caught them in a beauty. And I think they're going to pay a big price. We had another one yesterday, which was interesting. In the Oval Office, there's a beautiful statue of Dr. Martin Luther King. And I also happen to like Churchill, Winston Churchill. I think most of us like Churchill. Doesn't come from our country, but had a lot to do with it. Helped us, real ally. And as you know, Churchill's statue was taken out, the bust. And as you also probably have read, the Prime Minister is coming over to our country very shortly, and they wanted to know whether or not I'd like it back. I'd say absolutely, but in the meantime, we have a bust of Churchill. So a reporter for Time magazine, and I have been on their cover like 14 or 15 times.
Oh,
I think
my
we have
God.
the all-time record in the history of Time magazine. Like if Tom Brady's on the cover, it's one time because he won the Super Bowl or something, right? I've been on for 15 times this year.
Okay. I think you get the gist, because everybody is talking about this appearance that the president made at the CIA in front of the wall of CIA operatives who gave their lives. Okay? And he decided to use this to tell the CIA, first of all, that they were a bunch of losers, and that's all going to change because he knows more than they do. He's lecturing them about the interconnectivity of the world and how it's probably stuff you never even thought of. He's talking to the CIA, and he's saying this is probably stuff you never even thought of. But when I was young, and then he goes into this little rant about he still feels so young and it's great and isn't this good, and then he downshifts into lies about the size of his inauguration crowd. Size matters. Size matters. This is what he's saying. He's like some size queen now. I don't even understand. And it's amazing that he could be that petty on such a grand scale. So apparently he just cannot accept that his inaugural was not as big as Obama's. Well, guess what, Donald? Obama's was 3 times bigger. 3 times. Once you go Obama, you never go back. Apparently, his crowds were tiny. I'm sorry, they were. The parade stands were empty along the parade route. And then he had to say, it's cause of the rain, maybe. I felt a few drops and the rain. And he said, but I will tell you, as soon as I started talking, the rain stopped immediately. It stopped immediately, and then it became sunny. And then I walked away, and then it started pouring after I left. It just poured. My God, the next thing I thought he would say is that the entire crowd was fed with loaves, and all he brought was a few fishes. Oh, I can't believe what he did, and he's not embarrassed about it. In fact, he then doubles down on it, and he then sends the newly minted press secretary out to yell and admonish the press.
Secondly, photographs of the inaugural proceedings were intentionally framed in a way, in one particular tweet, to minimize the enormous support that had gathered on the National Mall. This was the first time in our nation's history that floor coverings have been used to protect the grass in the mall.
No.
That had the effect of highlighting any areas where people were not standing, while in years past, the grass eliminated this visual. This was also the first time that fencing and magnetometers went as far back on the wall, preventing hundreds of thousands of people from being able to access the mall as quickly as they had in inaugurations past. Inaccurate numbers involving crowd size were also tweeted. No one had numbers because the National Park Service, which controls the National Mall, does not put any out. By the way, this applies to any attempts to try to count the number of protesters today in the same fashion. We do know a few things, so let's go through the facts.
All right.
We know that from the platform where the president was sworn in to 4th Street holds about 250,000 people. From 4th Street to the media tent is about another 220,000. And from the media tent to the Washington Monument, another 250,000 people.
Oh, my God.
All of this space was full when the president took the oath of office. We know that 420,000 people used the D.C. Metro public transit yesterday, which actually compares to 317,000 that used it for President Obama's last inaugural. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
Okay, he goes on. Okay, he tells 5 lies there in under 5 minutes. Okay, and we can tell you each one of them, how each one of them was incorrect. Yes, they did use ground covering, that white ground covering to protect the grass. That was used at Obama's inauguration, so that was untrue. He said that the place was full the whole time. And he estimates how many people could fit into each place. I thought he said nobody puts out numbers. We do have crowd estimators. Then he goes on to cite the Metro numbers, okay?
Even the New York Times printed a photograph showing that a misrepresentation of the crowd in the original tweet in their paper, which showed the full extent of the support, depth, and crowd and intensity that existed. These attempts to lessen the enthusiasm of the inauguration are shameful and wrong. The president was also at the Central, as you know, the president was at the Central Intelligence Agency today and greeted by a raucous overflow crowd of some 400 plus CIA employees. There were over 1,000 requests to attend, prompting the president to note that he'll have to come back to greet the rest. The employees were ecstatic that he's the new commander-in-chief, and he delivered them a powerful and important message.
Yes, that mine is bigger than yours. That was the powerful, important message. I mean, look, here are the numbers, okay? He said that in the D.C. Metro numbers, he said 400. He said that. What were his numbers? 3 something. It was 5 something actually, but Obama's was 1.1 million. Okay, just here. Obama in 2009 was 1.8 million. Obama in 2013 was 1.1 million. Bush in 2001 was 300,000 people. Bush in 2005 was 400,000 people. Clinton in 93 was 800,000 people. Clinton in 1997, Bill Clinton, was 250,000 people. They estimate the crowd size experts. Did you know that we had people who are size queens that do that? I kind of heard a rumor that was true, but yes, the video analysis by crowd size experts reported by the New York Times, which he just quotes right there, suggested that the inauguration crowd was 160,000 people, a fraction of Trump's estimate, which he thought important enough to burden the CIA with today, on Saturday. It's an amazing thing. And then he goes back to the White House, and you know what happened. You must know. First of all, the Women's March on Washington ensued, and the crowd size experts in Washington, D.C. alone, and there were more than 60 cities that were, participating. But in D.C., it was 470,000 estimated participated in the Women's March in D.C., and when you throw in the other marches, the similar marches in the other states in the United States, the total protest is estimated to have included from 1 to 2.6 million people nationwide. This makes Trump look puny. I guess people couldn't go because they had root canal that day. I know I couldn't go because I had to wash my hair and lance a boil off of America's ass. Some people might have had to, express their dog's glands. Now we find out today that the people at CIA, the ones that were applauding, which was odd to me because CIA isn't like that. It's not, a place where, it gets political and you cheer for, somebody calling this one or that one a liar. No, it turns out that he did bring people. He brought about 40, 50 people and packed them into that room. And expect this, everywhere he goes, no matter how solemn the occasion, no matter where. You know what he said when he went to Arlington? Because my mother kept pointing at this going, he went to the tomb. He doesn't know who's in there. And I said, but Mom, cut him a little slack. It's the tomb of the unknown soldier. Nobody knows who's in there. Well, I'll call you back. Turns out he was recounting his day. I cannot find the clip any longer. I think it's a C-SPAN clip. He was recounting his day, and he was explaining that he went to the tomb of the unknown soldier. He actually said he went there. He laid a wreath. He said he had great crowds there. He actually said he had great crowds there. And then he said, so we did that. And then that was what it meant to him to go to the tomb of the unknown soldier. He had great crowds, and then we did that. Oh, I mean, this is unbelievable. This man cannot pretend to be surprised. Okay, he has the lowest approval rating of any president we've ever put into the White House. Okay, he squeaked through the Electoral College thanks to a handful of votes in 3 states, and historically, he is the least popular incoming president ever and the oldest. Which is probably why he's obsessing now about he feels young. In front of the CIA, in front of their hallowed wall. Oh, what a strange man. But it gets worse. Then Kellyanne Conway she agrees to do Meet the Press. And Chuck Todd asks her, why in the world would you use your very first press conference to lie from the podium? He's now on the payroll of the people of the United States of America. He's not running a campaign anymore. He's not getting paid by the Trump organization. He's not getting paid by donors or Republican PACs. He's on the payroll of the United States of America. He's in the press room that is owned by the people of the United States. We own that house. How could he possibly get up there and do this kind of lying? What message is it going to send? And her answer just trended on Twitter all day yesterday.
Chuck, I mean, if we're going to keep referring to our press secretary in those types of terms, I think that we're going to have to rethink our relationship here. I want to have a great open
Bitch girlfriend, you could tell right there.
Relationship with our press. But look what happened the day before, talking about falsehoods. We allowed the press to come into the Oval Office and witness President Trump signing executive orders. And of course, the Senate had just confirmed General Mattis and General Kelly to their 2 posts, and we allow the press in. And what happens almost immediately? A falsehood is told about removing the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. That's just flat out false. And
it was corrected immediately.
Chuck, why was it said? Chuck, why was it said in the first place? Because everybody is so presumptively negative.
To the head of that
reporter. That it's okay. No, excuse me. Oh, no. That reporter was writing on behalf of the press pool. That falsehood got spread 3,000 times before it was corrected.
Excuse
me.
And it's still out there. It does not excuse, and you did not answer the question.
I did answer your question.
No, you did not. You did not answer the question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts.
Alternative facts.
Wait a minute. Alternative facts? Alternative facts. 4 of the 5 facts he uttered. The one thing he got right was Zeke Miller. 4 of the 5 facts he uttered were just not true. Look, alternative facts are not facts. They're falsehoods.
Chuck, do you think it's a fact or not that millions of people have lost their plans or health insurance and their...
Okay, now she goes through her, her laundry list of things she hated about the Obama administration. All right, so alternative facts, everybody. That's where we are. We're in an alternative universe with an alternative president, with alternative worldviews, alternative new world orders, with an alternative press corps, and alternative facts that they are going to make up on the fly. Well, now, you can't yell at the press corps if you're going to present them with alternative facts, see, because they don't know that they're alternative facts until you tell them what your facts alternatively are. See, they don't know what the lies are until you tell them what the lies are. So you can't yell at the press for not anticipating your new lie. You have to tell it to them first. Then they'll know, oh, this is the story. They're sticking to it. It's not true, but this is where they're at. Alternative freaking facts in an alternative universe with alternative worldviews of a new alternative world order. Oh my freaking God. This is just amazing. And the sheer inaugural balls of this. Alternative, it really is grandiose delusions, but this is the worst start to a presidency since William Henry Harrison, and he caught a cold on Inauguration Day and died a month later. Not off to a good start, people. I mean, I thought the inaugural balls of him were insane. You know what they had to eat there at the balls? You know what he served them for their entry fee? He served on paper plates. I'm not kidding. Cheese, tortellini, and $5 drink cards. Classy.
Clear for takeoff.
Randy Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandyRhodes.com.
Go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.